Well, far be it for me to be a prime ministerial psychologist, Will, but I can tell you what we have seen today, which is really extremely dramatic. Prime Minister Netanyahu, as you said, he has been on trial now for many years, 4 or 5 years. Most of the delays have been incurred because he himself has requested delays. Prime Minister Netanyahu has for a very long time put himself in the paradoxical situation in which, on the one hand, he persuaded the Supreme Court to allow him to run for office despite being an indicted criminal by explaining that he would have no problem appearing at trial and testifying at trial while running the country, and since then has turned around and said, as he does again today, it is impossible for me to testify so many times a week and run the country. It can't be done. What he is saying in today's extraordinary request for a pardon, while his trial is still underway, he's saying, this is pulling the country apart. It is in the public interest. He's saying to Israelis, it's on you. It is for you that I'm requesting this pardon. And he says explicitly in a statement, a pre-taped video statement he just put out, he says, actually, it is in his interest, he says, to continue this trial, to pursue it, because he's completely innocent. And he says, in fact, those who pursued him engaged in crimes so as to attack him. However, he says, in the public interest, let's cancel this trial and allow me to return to my full duties as Prime Minister.
What more can you tell us about the trials?
The trial is very complicated. As you indicated, it involves several different charges, and they include bribery and breach of trust, very serious charges, also include fraud. Most of the cases in which Prime Minister Netanyahu was indicted involve his efforts on multiple fronts over many years to take over the Israeli media sphere, to take control of it, to offer, for example, regulatory advantages, illegal regulatory advantages, it is alleged, to friends of his who owned major media companies, He is accused also of using the offices of the Prime Minister of the state to give personal favors to billionaire friends who could then compensate him with gifts such as jewelry for his wife, cigars, champagne, a lavish lifestyle. So it is a complex, multiplicitous trial, and Netanyahu has been providing his own testimony, but really reluctantly in recent weeks. In other words, requesting that his sessions providing testimony be shortened, always saying that there's a diplomatic or security reason behind it, basically saying it is impossible for him to continue this trial. However, let's add, it has never happened in the history of the state of Israel that anybody still on trial has requested or gotten a pardon. Israeli law, as it stands, holds that you have to be a convicted criminal to be able to be pardoned.
And so what are his chances here, Noga?
That's the bajillion-dollar question right now. Immense pressure is being put on Israeli on Israeli President Isaac Herzog, the man who would grant this pardon. Prime Minister Netanyahu said something extraordinary in a way about his chances in his videotape statement. He said, again, not just is he doing this just for the good of the public, he said, but he's doing it also for Donald Trump, who has requested that he be pardoned. How could the president of Israel, he says, ignore a personal request from the president of the United States? Now, we know, of course, from President Trump's mouth, we know that it was Netanyahu who asked him, Trump, to request this pardon on his behalf. So we really are very much in an echo chamber here. The president, while president, cannot act completely alone. This will have to go through the pardons branch of the Justice Ministry. This decision will be subject to judicial review in any event. So my legal sources are saying, and I'm quoting now some Jerusalem lawyers, that this pardon request is a joke, implying he wouldn't have many chances, but Israel is being torn apart from within. The Prime Minister is attempting to crush the Israeli judiciary so as to avoid this trial. And so honestly, Will, I think anything